Hey church family, it's Pastor Don, and maybe you're tuning into this video and you're wondering what's going on. And I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of things that we don't do at Legacy because lack of time, lack of space, lack of various things. If I'm honest, right now, a lot of my vision for the church feels at times like it's on hold because of a lack of different things. And that can be frustrating. I will admit that. That will be frustrating for a lot of people, not just pastors, but a lot of people. God doesn't make life easy. And I know for a lot of you, you might be going, huh? I mean, let's be honest. Jesus tells the apostles that they're always going to have the poor, which means that life is going to be full of trials and tribulations. And one thing is that as we as a church begin to grow, as we as a church begin to strive for different things, maybe personally, maybe within the church, things aren't always going to go falling into place. So it really got me thinking. We need to spend a little more time in the Word. We need to take time on our busy week to spend time. And I know not everybody can. We have people that can't make it to community group, people that can't make it to prayer group. And, you know, we need to use what God has given us in many ways. So here we are in the digital age, as some people say. And, so I don't know what I'm going to call this. I'm hoping to have this up earlier. I had been meaning to get this done earlier today, but of course, being bivocational, you work, and then when you have free time, you're busy doing things that you need to do for the other job, which for me, my other job is being your pastor. So life gets busy. So I'm going to be working on these. This means that I'm probably going to have to record these on Monday or Tuesday. But my goal is to get these up on Wednesday. And I don't know what we're going to call these. I really don't. I have pastor friends that have done stuff from Wisdom Wednesdays or Wednesday's Wisdom. Maybe we call this Midweek Meditation. I don't know. But the point is this. We all need to be in the Word. And I don't think a lot of us are, because life gets busy. Life is something that pulls us away from God. Thus why we used to have, back in the day, as some people say, we had midweek studies or midweek service. It was kind of that bump that as the devil was getting at people, they were able to go to church Wednesday night and get a little refuel and finish the week strong. But that isn't always the case. Life has changed. Life has gotten busy. So my point on this is this. You know, we tend to think that life is always going to be simple. We tend to think that we are in God's will, and sometimes we're not. Sometimes we're striving to get from point A to point B, but as we're trying to get to point B, things happen. You know, maybe for you haven't quite gotten to point B yet. Maybe something has happened where you're looking around and you think that, hey, this is the route I need to go. And you're not getting to point B. And it gets frustrating. It really does. Because the thing is we can sit here, we can pray, we can say that we're reading the Bible, but the Bible is specific that we are to be seeking the will of God. Now, what is the will of God? The will of God is what God wants us to do. It is kind of as one professor put it to me, we have God's wish will and we have God's will. And the difference between the wish will and the will is one of them is what God has lined up for us, and the other thing is what we wish God had lined up for us. So sometimes, and this is my point on this, is that we have to understand that when we're getting frustrated with things, when we're trying to work our way through the muck and mire of the day, and we're getting frustrated because God just seems to be holding us back, maybe he is. Maybe it's because we're not really in his will. Maybe it's because what we think is his will isn't. Let's look at the good old Bible for a second. Solomon was a wise man. I don't think any of us can deny that. Solomon was a very wise man. And he writes this in Proverbs 16. 16:9 to be exact. He says, "A person's heart plans his way, but the Lord determines his steps." Now, what does that mean for you and me? Well, let's look at it. A person's heart plans his way. So there are things that we want to do. There are places we want to go. There are our dreams we want to dream and live out. But the question is that God's will for us? In other words, when it says, but the Lord determines his steps. Some of those things, even when we are in God's will, some of those things that we're trying to do are going to bring us there. But it might not be right now. It might be 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Here I am in 2021. I graduated in 1992. I thought I was going to go to school right away, and I didn't. I was foolish. I was going to do it the smart way. I was going to go into the Army and get the GI Bill and be able to have everything paid for. I didn't expect to injure myself almost 3 years in. Not quite 3 years, 2.5, if I'm honest. But here's the thing. I went in. I hurt myself. I thought it was God's will that I would do things in a certain way. But God had other plans for me. I thought when I got out and I started putting in for colleges, I was going to understand it better, and I struggled. I didn't go back to school to finish my degree. I began my degree right after the Army. Got out, began it again, got out. I didn't begin my college journey again until 2003, right after my mom passed. And it took me from 2003 to 2009 to get my bachelor's degree. I was happy I had that. And I thought I was going to go right from there into my master's program, but God had more plans. I got involved with church, became an actual pastor, even though I was already ordained by my dad and several other pastors. I got actually involved as a pastor in a couple of churches that helped mature me, which brought me to you. And it was here during the pandemic that all of a sudden I was able to finally get my master's, which I thought was going to happen right away. but it didn't. It took time. When you look at it, I finished my master's a little over a month ago, 2021, which is, I don't even want to put the date, put years on there, but when I think of it, after having my bachelor's, it took me 11 years before I would do my master's. The point is, it wasn't what God's will was. God had me go through a different path. And that's what we have to understand. When we look at Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own understanding. In all your ways, know him, and he will make your path straight." In other words, here's the thing. God is going to walk you through it. But here's the thing. When life is going wrong, when life is causing all sorts of struggles, when life is making it hard for you and for me to understand what is going on, like when we cannot understand why certain things are going the way they are, here's the thing that we have to understand. We have to understand that, one, God is still in control. Two, maybe what is going on in our lives, maybe all the frustration, we're not seeking God. God has been trying. God is sitting there like this. Hey, hello, wake up. Trying to tell you what it is that he wants you to do. And for some, that becomes hard. For some, we get so enamored with one way of life. Look at it in this way. We look at maybe the last 30 years of work and different things going on in the world. And we see where I can remember graduating, nursing was the big study. And prior to that, it was business, and people were still going to business school. And then when people finally started going to nursing school, it became teaching that was the job that was hugely hiring because there was a lack of teachers. And then everybody started studying teaching, and all of a sudden, nursing began to dry up again. And right now, we're in a nursing crunch. People need medical workers. Pandemic, maybe, but the thing is that when we look at it, people need medical workers right now. The point is this: we can always try to look at like where we should go, but are we wisely seeking God in it? Are we wisely seeking godly advice from people that we can trust that are going to help us understand those things? I think of the story of this man who wanted to have the job of a baker all his life. He thought that's what he was going to do. He had trained for it. He had gone through all the apprenticeships, everything. And that wasn't to be. God seemingly called him to something else, and he got frustrated with life. Turned his back from God. And we shouldn't do that. We need to be constantly looking to God. Now, I can give you a real example of this. I have a cousin who went to school, studied, learned computers, worked for IBM for a number of years. Worked for IBM for a number of years. And of course, we all know that computers went on the bubble. We've had the bubble that burst. And at that time, rather than begin looking for another job within the computer industry, he wondered what he could do at his age, because he was told that it was going to be difficult for him to get back into computers, get back into the job that he was. And so he ended up actually taking an apprenticeship with a carpenter. who taught him all the skills of cabinet making and carpentry. You know what? To this day, he still does that job. He's able to pay cash for a lot of things in his life. And when you talk to him, he's a lot happier than when he was working for IBM. The thing was he noticed that there was a wake-up call. He listened to good advice. And that's the thing. God gives us good advice. But how do we know? We need to be in prayer. We need to understand that God calls us to be in relation with him. When we're in relation with him and when we're in relationship with godly people in our lives, those two things come together and help us realize the pathways that God wants us to walk. So that's it. That's what I'm going to leave you with. That's our godly wisdom of the day. I hope you're having a good day. I know that there's been a lot of things going on in our church recently. This isn't the forum to give you updates on that, but we'll give you updates when we do know. All right, God bless. I love you all.